The world of MMA has witnessed some spectacular and chaotic UFC events. There was UFC 229, centered around Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, UFC 100 hosting Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir in their second fight, or even UFC 129 between George St. Pierre and Jake Shields. But there was something about the just concluded UFC 279 that seems to blow most of the aforementioned events out of the water. From the general public reception and controversy of the original main event between Nate and Chimaev, to the backstage controversies before the press conference, to Khamzat inexplicably missing weight, then the matchups being switched at the last minute, and the eventual fight night itself, everything about this event screamed chaos. Hello and welcome to another video where we'll take a ride into the events that plagued the UFC 279. Fasten your seatbelts because this could be rather bumpy. As previously stated, UFC 279 was an event like none other in the organization's history, and there are tons of subplots to dissect and analyze. Pre-fight week controversies. Ever since the bout between Khamzat and Nate was officially announced in the early parts of August, it has generated nothing but controversy and talking points because of the nature of the main event. The matchup between the two welterweights was akin to something of David and Goliath story. And because of this, MMA experts and fans alike tore into the UFC. Inasmuch as it would have been highly ill-advised to count out Nate Diaz, the odds were seemingly against him. All in all, one can say that the UFC and Dana White were looking for a way to punish Diaz and end his UFC career with a whimper, and the matchup with Khamzat fitted the bill. This brings us to our next segment, Fight Week. Drama, drama, and more drama. This was the story of the week that preceded Fight Night, but should we really have expected anything different? For a card containing the likes of Diaz, Khamzat, and Big Mouth Kevin Holland, drama was always likely to ensue, and this event certainly delivered that. The week started quietly, with all sets and fighters seemingly tuned in and focused on Fight Night, but the day for the press conference came, and chaos entered the mix. For the first time in the UFC history, a press conference was cancelled right before it began, with reports of violence going on backstage. According to multiple reports, the brawl started between Khamzat and Kevin. Now, many of you might not know this, but both men have been at each other's necks on social media for over a year now, so it was pretty inevitable that when they finally saw face-to-face, that carnage would erupt. And when there's violence, the Diaz brothers are never far off, as Dana White himself reported that there were over 50 men brought by Diaz camp backstage. But this wasn't the craziest thing to have happened during the week. As of Thursday, September 8th, Diaz was scheduled to fight Khamzat. Tony was supposed to fight Lee, and Holland was going to fight Rodriguez. But in a spectacular turn of events, as of Friday, the day before the fight, Diaz was taking on Ferguson, Holland was fighting Chimaev, and Lee was scheduled to fight Rodriguez. It was a 24-hour spell that was packed with a lot of calamities, and it all started because Chimaev failed to make weight. Weight cutting is an issue that has plagued the UFC for years, with some fighters occasionally missing weight by a pound or two. But when you miss weight by close to 10 pounds, it begs the question whether any effort was put into making the weight at all. If Chimaev had made the 171-pound limit, he would still have a clear size advantage come fight night. But for him to come in at 178 pounds spelled utter disrespect for his opponent and fans in general. And there was no way Nate would take on the fight, considering the event that unfolded. So, in an attempt to save the event, the UFC finally did what fans have been asking for years, by booking Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson as the main event, both of whom are cardio machines with highlight reels for the ages, and booking Chimaev versus Holland as the co-main, because what better way to settle their beef than in the octagon? But here comes the interesting part. Were all these pre-planned by Dana? Think about it for a minute. The UFC had received a huge amount of backlash for the main event and the entire card in general, and there was a growing sense of disinterest from the MMA community. And back to the weight cuts. Kevin Holland was supposed to be fighting at middleweight, but somehow showed up to the scales 5 pounds short of 180 pounds, while Khamzat weighed just 1.5 pounds less of Kevin. It certainly makes one wonder whether the backstage brawl, weight misses, and last-minute fight changes were all planned beforehand by the UFC to attract a lot more eyes. If this is the case, then the UFC certainly did a great job of doing that, as a lot more eyes are certain to be tuning in come fight night. The outcome of the co-main between Khamzat and Kevin Holland was everyone's fear when he was originally scheduled to fight Nate Diaz. It was the sort of performance by Khamzat that adds to the air of invincibility and inevitability that he has shown so far in the UFC. Simply put, he made Kevin Holland look like child's play, and we know he's anything but that. This is the same guy that has competed in the UFC middleweight division, knocking out guys like Jacare Souza and going toe-to-toe with heavy hitters like Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori. But Chimaev is certainly a different breed, and 1 second into the fight, Chimaev was all over Kevin and taking him down almost at will, before eventually submitting him within 3 minutes of the first round. It was yet another fight that Khamzat absorbed 0 strikes. But the major highlight of this card was undoubtedly the main event between Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz. It was everything the fans wanted, as we saw two of the fight game's greatest scrap in the octagon. There was blood, flying elbows, excellent boxing, and a submission victory at the end of it all. You couldn't have asked for much more. All in all, mostly everyone won in UFC 279. Nate Diaz bowed out with a submission victory similar to when he was in his prime. Tony Ferguson would finally get his big payday that he and fans alike have been advocating for years. Khamzat's stock is sure to increase with yet another spotless performance. The UFC will certainly rake in a lot more money, given the theatrics that occurred before the fight. And lastly, but most importantly, the fans were certainly entertained and got their money's worth. UFC 279 was without a doubt one of the best and most controversial cards in MMA history. So, this brings an end to our video for today. Tell us what you feel was the best part of this crazy event in the comment section below. Smash that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with more exciting uploads.